The response to my deck reviews has been great so far, and I've got plenty of submitted decks to keep me busy for probably the next maybe week and a half. Because my videos are in HD, it takes almost an entire day for them to upload. So one video a day, maybe 1.5 videos per day. I've probably got enough decks to last a week, so feel free to keep submitting your decks. I'll be making them as soon as possible, and I plan on just uploading them in queue, so even when I'm sleeping, at work, whatever, they can be uploading while I'm away. So hopefully they'll be getting up quite a bit faster, and if I can get a little faster in my reviews and get them under 15-20 minutes, then hopefully they won't take nearly as long to upload, and everyone that submitted their decks can get their reviews in a lot faster. But keep on submitting them. I'm really enjoying doing them. Feel free to suggest things to change. I'm already considering some things to change about just camera angles and card things and stuff like that. But so far I think it's working out alright. So let's go ahead and jump into the next vid. In this one I will be reviewing NoththeMudkip, and he's running a variation of Kingdra Vaporeon, but not the ability and prime that you would typically think. So it's a pretty interesting deck, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. I originally called this deck a Kingdra Vaporeon deck, but after a good look at it, I think it would work better being a Kingdra Vaporeon deck. So let's go ahead and take a deeper look into this. And I apologize if you can't read the list very well. I'm writing in a slightly lighter pen in this page, and later deck reviews I will be using a darker pen, so that hopefully you can read it a little better. So we have quite a lot of different Pokemon lines going on. We have a mixture of water and fighting, and while I don't believe he included a strategy, I don't quite remember, he did include a few little reasons why he chose different things. So first off, we'll start by showing the non-prime Kingdra, and sorry I knocked the camera there. The non-prime Kingdra is this one, which has a very nice snipe for 30, or it can do stream pump for 80 as long as you return a energy to your hand. That's really not a big deal because you can just reattach it next time, and if you absolutely need that energy to stay, it still does 50. I believe this is a really good card, and even in Kingdra Prime decks, I think a lot of Kingdra Prime decks would benefit just from having one of these in there as well. So he has a 3-3-3 Kingdra line, which is very solid. His second water line that I really enjoy, I didn't think I would enjoy it from just the first glance at this deck, is Vaporeon from Call of Legends. And actually I believe this is a reprinted card, so you can get it in another set as well. But the main reason I like this attack is for Dual Splash. It allows you to choose 2 of your opponent's Pokemon and does 30 to each of them. This is an excellent baby sniper. It can do the active baby and the bench baby, which means that you don't need your Samurott line. You have a 1-1-1 Samurott line, and you did say that the reason that you have this in here was to use Pike to pick off babies. However, both Kingdra and Vaporeon have sniping attacks that can knock out those babies. And, Kingdra can only knock out 1 baby in a turn. However, obviously Samurott can do 2 if a baby is active. Vaporeon, however, is any 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So if it's got 2 babies on the bench, it just kills those 2 babies. That is much more useful than the Samurott Pike. So I would drop your Samurott line completely. You're running 3-3 Vaporeon now. I think that's excellent. I would keep the 3-3 Vaporeon and the 3-3 Kingdra. Another line you have that I really don't think is very useful are 2 Basculin and 2 Hitmonchan. I don't know if your strategy was really anything specific, but I definitely think you can take those out. The other 2 Pokemon lines that you have in here, I really would like to see stay in here, and that's the Gliscor and the Weavile techs. So the Weavile tech, I really like just because it's a little bit of disruption to this for this deck. So you're not really nothing in your deck is dealing a ton of damage. So I'm thinking your goal is to spread damage as much as you can and disrupt your opponent. So the Weavile will be excellent for that. When you evolve it, you get to look at your opponent's hand and discard one. Right now you only have a 1/1 line. I might increase that to a 2/2 because even I would definitely throw in some energy, which you have. Yeah, I did write that down. That you have to use Feint Attack, which can also knock out if I could talk right, a baby Pokemon. The last card that I really like that I'd also like to stay in the deck is a Gliscor Holo from Undaunted, and I really don't know if I prefer one attack over the other. Ninja Fang does 30. However, if this is a defending Pokemon doesn't have any damage counters on it, it does 30 and is paralyzed. I believe you said you had this in here for a Reshiram or Zekrom tech to hopefully they don't have the switch and something to retreat in hand, and essentially it stays paralyzed. I think this is a great attack. I also like its second attack though. Poison Jab does 50 and then the defending Pokemon is poisoned. So this deck, I think if it runs right, could do quite a lot of disruption. You're spreading a lot of damage with Vaporeon and Kingdra, and you're disrupting their hand with Weavile, and then you're pulling up Gliscor to poison or paralyze them. I really think this has some potential. So that's what I recommend for the Pokemon line. You don't really have a starter Pokemon like Cleffa, Smeargle, anything like that. You might want to consider running that, but right now you've got 4 solid lines of Pokemon. I recommend probably increasing the Weavile and even maybe increasing the Gliscor up so you have 3 lines. That might be a good suggestion. But if you're not having any issues getting set up fast, then maybe you don't need the Cleffa. So that's just a personal choice. Let's go ahead and take a look at your energy count now. You've got 9 water, 4 fighting, and 2 darkness. That's a total of 15 energy, which is a decent number. I don't know if we really want to take it down too much, but I definitely think we can change this around. If you can increase your line to 2/2 Weavile, I might want to see that darkness increase by just 1. I think you can get by with just 3 dark energy. The fighting energy I think is good. Stick that to 4 because Gliscor only needs 1 fighting energy per attack. The rest are colorless. So I think 4 is a pretty solid line, even if you decide to go up to 3/3 Gliscor. The 9 water, I think you could bring that down to maybe 6 or so. And the reason I say that is because your heaviest water line is Vaporeon, which needs 2 water and 1 colorless. But Kingdra just needs, 1 water and 2 colorless. The energy type that I strongly suggest you add, and if you don't have any, don't worry about it because they're going to give them away at League promos, and then if not now, in next season. Double colorless energy. Right now, if you run the deck even without the Samurai, you have 3 Pokemon that can utilize this double colorless energy. Kingdra Prime Stream Pump, or not Kingdra Prime, regular Kingdra Stream Pump, Vaporeon's Dual Splash, and Gliscor's Poison Jab. So DCE would be a great addition to this deck. I might even add, I don't know if I would necessarily run 4 of them, but I think this could definitely benefit from 3. So I would recommend 6 water, 4 fighting, 3 dark, and 3 DCE, and try that out and see how that works for you. So going on to your supporter and trainer line, I think the rest of the deck is really solid, but I think this part of the deck needs a little bit of work. The only supporters that you have in here are Elm. You have 4 Elm, which is nice, but it only allows you to search for evolved Pokemon. You don't have anything in here right now to let you search for basic Pokemon. So I would definitely recommend, where is it? Throwing in a few Pokemon collectors, and if you don't have Pokemon collectors, throw in some dual balls. You have the risk of the flip, but it is a trainer. Yeah. So either dual balls or collectors to try and get some basics out, and you can lower that Elm count down to 2 or 3. I wouldn't worry about good rods, I wouldn't worry about potions, and I definitely wouldn't worry about energy search. I am not a fan of energy search. I'm really just not. If I'm worried about drawing into energy, I like to run interviewers' questions instead. typically the chances of you pulling an energy from them are pretty high, especially if you're running, you know, around 15 energy in a deck. You should be able to hit a couple of energy on interviewers. And, you know, it is a supporter, but I think that space for that 4 energy search would be best used somewhere else. I would also recommend that you put in a Flower Shop Girl to get some of your Pokemon and energy back from the discard pile when they get knocked out. You know, no one's perfect. There's things that are going to be knocked out. And 1 Twins in case you're falling behind, you know, see if you can use this to get yourself back out. Something else I would recommend that I think is good in every deck, however, since you don't run babies, it may not be that big a deal. Since you run a lot of energy, if you're willing to throw them away, you may not need the switch. Most decks run 1 switch, but this deck may not need it. If you're finding, though, that you're finding something in the active position that you don't want to be there and you need a retreat, go ahead and do it, but your Weavile's got free retreat, and I think everything else... no, your Vaporeon has a 2 retreat cost, so that could hurt you, so that may be a reason why you want to keep that switch in. If you're worried about throwing away energy, I love energy retrieval, but this really isn't even a big necessity for you either, just because you shouldn't be throwing away too much energy. But certainly if you're finding that you have that problem, energy retrieval is an excellent card. I would highly, highly recommend some Pokemon communication. At least 2 or 3 communication. Just, you know, you can, if you pull it in the collectors and the dual balls, you can even, you know, just use them and then communicate one of your basics back in for an evolved Pokemon. I know it's not as fast as Elm, but I really wouldn't like the chance of having to use a supporter on a turn to find an evolved Pokemon if I can get a lot more out of that. So, Pokemon communication, I love that card. And because now we're increasing your... Oh, and I just realized you already have 2 retrieval in your deck, so I didn't need to recommend you put that in. You've already got it in. You also have 2 Fishermen in your deck as well for getting back energy. 4 cards to get your energy back from the discard pile may be a bit too much. I don't think you should need that many, but again, that's personal preference. I would recommend a couple of Junk Arms, at least 2, if not 3. That way you can reduce your entire line of trainers down and just rely on Junk Arm to throw some stuff out to get them. Yeah, you know, reuse those retrievals and communications, and if you have it, you know, the switch. Yeah, you just never know when a Junk Arm is going to come in handy, and it can be essentially used for anything. The other thing I would recommend, or actually the last thing I would recommend for this deck, is some hand refresher cards. Since you don't have Cleffa, you don't have a way just to shuffle in a horrible hand and grab something new. So, I would recommend Professor Oak's New Theory, or Copycat. You know, depends on your personal preference, your play style, as to which one you want to go with. I'm also a fan of Juniper, although I don't like to run more than 1, maybe 2 per deck, because I don't like to file through my deck that much. Discarding my entire hand and drawing 7 can wear down your hand very, very fast. So, I don't like to use too many of them, but they are an excellent way to refresh a bad hand. The only other card, which I have not pulled out, that you might want to consider would be Judge, since you're already disrupting with Weavile. However, you don't really have a draw engine in your deck like Ninetales or Magnezone to recover after you judge yourself, so that could hurt yourself just as much as it hurts your opponent. So I might want to stay away from the Judge and stick with the Copycat and Pont, and just try those. But I think that's about it. Overall, I really like the idea of Kingdra Vaporeon Gliscor Weavile, and even if I had to drop one of those 4 lines, I'd probably drop the Weavile, just because Gliscor, you don't see Gliscor coming. And yeah, the Vaporeon Kingdra spread damage, that's also one that you just wouldn't see coming. You might even want to consider throwing in a Pokemon with this, maybe a little more difficult to run, but the Jirachi that can de-evolve your Pokemon, if you can use Vaporeon and Kingdra just to spread enough damage and use Kingdra to de-evolve them, or not Kingdra, Jirachi to de-evolve them, you can take several prizes in 1 turn. But again, that might be a bit tricky, and that might make the deck just a little undoable trying to run 3 different energy types. But again, that's something to think about. And I hope you like my suggestions, and if you'd like to see your deck reviewed, just send me a PM with the full deck list or partial deck list. Strategies are great. And one thing that might be helpful is tell me what division you're aiming for if you're going into a tournament. you know, juniors, seniors, masters, because the format, or not the format, but the metagames per division do change up a bit. So I'm going to start mentioning that in my vids. I think it's something that would help me review decks a little bit better, just because I can kind of recommend cards a little better based on what's out there. So, thank you for watching, and again, if you'd like to see your deck reviewed, just submit it to my PM box.